Hello, everyone, and welcome to this interview. We are at the Off-Grid Expo and Conference 2025 in Augsburg, and I'm pleased to be joined by Denis Koech, the project coordinator from the TUM SEED Center in Kenya, from JKUAT University. Thank you so much, Denis.
Thank you.
The focus of this short interviews is to tell about what the Seed Center in Kenya is doing, and also to give a bit of an overview about the off-grid energy sector in your country. I just want to mention that Kenya is this year partner country for the off-grid conference, and it has been already described as a role model, as a shining example for its innovative ecosystem, as well as a very forward-looking policy environment. So I hope we can discuss the status, also the key challenges and the way ahead of the sector in Kenya with you today.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Alessia, for having me here. Yes, my name is Denis Koech from Kenya. I'm the project coordinator for the TUM SEED Center in Kenya, whereby we are the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology, domiciled in Kenya, and we do research with impact under the SEED Center arm. And of course, we are also happy to be the partner country for this year's Off-Grid Expo and Conference here in Augsburg. And it's such a great thing to showcase what we are doing as a country, especially in the area of sustainability and sustainable energies. So we are really happy.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much. And we are happy to have you here. It's always a pleasure to reconnect.
Thank you.
So let's start by telling us a little bit about what's going on at the JKUAT Seed Center. What do you guys work on at the moment?
Thank you so much. What we do at the JKUAT SEED Center at the moment is that one is that the main goal that we have at the SEED Center is having to do research with impact. So, in the aspect that we are supporting researchers in the area of sustainable energies and also entrepreneurship, at both master level, PhD level, and once in a while we also support bachelor's level who come for research in that specific field. And coming now to the aspect of impact, is that is now where we also develop a living lab. We develop a living lab in the rural parts of the country. So that is what we do. The living lab in this case is that we installed a mini grid in one of the off-grid communities in Kenya, specifically in Olderkesi, located near the Mara, and we installed a 12 kilowatt system to supply power to the trade center in there and also to support every other entrepreneurship activities.
Thank you, Denis.
Thank
I've
you.
been visiting the Living Lab a couple of times, and I think it's a really good example of how research can get out of the room and make a practical impact on the life of people. But now I would like to ask you a few questions more about the off-grid energy sector in general in Kenya. Can you give us an overview, a few like names and numbers and facts and figures about what are the main technologies going on? What are the main players? What is going on?
Yeah, what is going on down there in Kenya is that the off-grid sector is really on the rise. Yeah, you can say so because uh, the arid land coverage in Kenya is around 60 to 70% at the moment. So, with that kind of perspective, you realize that we have most of the areas being highly the solar energy can be tapped from those regions. So what this means is that in as much as the government is really pushing for electrification, to push electrification status to 100%, because you're currently at 70% electrification in the country. So you realize that these areas which are off-grid, arid areas, which is 70% land coverage, realize that most of them still have a challenge with energy access. So with this kind of perspective, you realize that now most of the companies are now trying to tap into those regions. By one is to meet the energy demand in those areas because you still find people living there and they don't have access to electricity. So the developers are also focusing on those areas, and also the government on the other side is also trying its level best to boost electrification in that area. So we have the private developers, and also the government is also coming in to tap the solar energy through the Rural Electrification and Renewable Energy Corporation that is government owned. So in a way, both the private sector and also the government is trying to harness the resources which are there so they can tap into the power that is in the solar energy. So that is the current status at the moment in Kenya, and
Very interesting.
actually it's on the rise.
Very interesting. Thank you very much. So, if I understand, there are these two key players: the government, but also the private sector,
Yes, yes,
that are kind of in synergy, working together to
exactly.
achieve a higher level of electrification. Very interesting. And as we said, Kenya is often mentioned as one of the leaders in energy access in Africa. What do you think is that makes Kenya unique compared to the other African countries that have not achieved the same level of progress in this respect?
Yes, for Kenya, the reason why that is coming out for our country is that one is that you see the environment that we have in the country is very supportive in that regard. Number one is that the environment itself, as I mentioned earlier, that we have solar irradiation in abundance. And secondly, is that in as much as we have the resource, we also have the government offering a huge support in that perspective so that the aspect of exploitation is limited as much as possible. And exploitation in this area is that what I mean is that both to the consumers and to the potential developers. So that is where by now the government is coming up with policies using the government authorities like the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, who are really investing most of their resources and also the expertise to regulate the environment in the area of grid sector.
Okay.
Of course, there is also the other sectors which they are regulating, but now in this case, they are also doing huge strides in the regulation of sustainable energy sector, that is the off-grid sector. So we have that, and thirdly is that we also have different financials who are also coming up to support people who are venturing into this. And a number of models are also coming up to support into this. So you see that the government has really opened up the space so that people can try what seems best for them, especially in the area of grid and offering solutions in the off-grid areas. Yeah.
Thank you, Dennis. So, if I understand, it's one is like the context itself and the fact that the environmental conditions are favorable.
Yep.
Then the policy environment and favorable policies, but also the financial. So these three components are like creating this unique receipt for
Exactly.
successful
That's true. That's
development.
true. And also, in addition to that, is the consumers themselves also are very receptive,
Okay.
because you see, you can't. You might find a challenge to offer a solution to energy needs or demands if there is no one to utilize. So you see, at the end of the day, if you have the players, you have the policies in place, and also the consumers are missing, then at the end of the day, the chain is not complete.
There's a bottleneck.
Yeah, there's a bottleneck there. So you also find that the communities who are also off grid are also willing to utilize the power that is applied to them. Willingness in this perspective is that they are willing to adopt the new technologies, although there could be a bottleneck at some point. But with capacity building, they come to appreciate that yes, this thing is supporting us. Secondly, is that most of them, they usually have a willingness to pay for power. So the willingness to pay for power means that for the developers, either the government or the private developers, they are also coming up with a model whereby the sustainability is handled at the onset. So the consumers also are very supportive because everyone needs power. You see.
Thank you for adding
Yeah.
that. I think it's very, very important. Um, but now let's look at the other side. What are is that the challenges that still remain in Kenya to be overcome?
In my perspective, we have a few challenges, and in which, in my opinion, I have a perspective that a lot is being done to address that. The one number one thing is the financing aspect. You see, to offer energy solutions in an off-grid community, it's very demanding in terms of the budget. You need to have huge budgets to implement these mini grid solutions. So number one is that the financing, and the other thing is the policies which we have in place, as I mentioned earlier, is that the regulator is coming up with policies, and now you see for policies to come into effect, it has to go through several steps, including even the government itself, the executive arm of the government, to amending those policies and regulations in place. You see such kind of a thing. So, when it comes to policies, yes, the policies are being developed, but oftentimes you realize that every time we need someone challenges these policies, like why do we need to have a specific policy addressing this? So, but how to address that is that the government is trying to have a more participatory approach, bring every player in place so that you can have an evaluation of the policies which the government is pushing to regulate the sector. So once all these stakeholders are brought into picture, then now the right policies are coming to effect. And then now the regulator, EPRA, Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, is one who is coming to implement those policies. And when they come into implementation, having all these players aware of what is at stake in a given policy or regulation, then it will be easier for it to be implemented. So those are just the bottlenecks along the way. But in my opinion, the government is really trying to find a solution to all these challenges which comes along the way. And lastly is the technical perspective. The technical perspective, you realize that what I've mentioned, the first one is about the financing. Second is about the policies, and thirdly is about the technical expertise. So, in my opinion, those are in from the highest to the lowest. Why the technical being the lowest is that the country is investing much in the building capacity to implement these off-grid solutions. And how it is building capacity is that we have the universities, which is that is where we also come from, and we also have TVET institutions, technical and vocational institutions, whereby now they're training people for hands-on experience. And also the regulator, Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, is also coming in to offer the licenses to everyone who is going to operate specifically in the mini grid sector, in the off-grid solution sector. You see such kind of a thing. So I consider this as the lowest challenge because solutions are now coming up and the government is very vibrant on this. And the regulations with respect to the practitioners is already in place. And for you to offer a solution in an off-grid area, you need to have those certifications from the
Sure.
regulator. So so far, I think it's picking up so well. So I consider those as the key challenges.
Thank you so much for driving us in this level of details and
Yeah.
technicalities that are also difficult to observe from the outside. So these insights are really precious. Um, Now I have a more like forward-looking question for you. We know you have this 2030 goal of universal electrification, right? And we know we are not on track.
Yeah.
But let's go beyond 2030 and think about how will the sector look like in 10 years? What do you think will be the new trends or innovation that will shape and the sector and make us make progress?
Wow, that's a good question. Yeah, what I see in the near future is that since the trajectory is really developing so well in Kenya, and you see now we have different people who are coming into the space, and with this we have the researchers coming in, we have the technologists coming in, we have the government coming in. So everyone is pulling in the efforts to realize. The Vision 2030. So, what I envision in the future is that I'm looking forward to a situation whereby, which we are actually looking forward to, is that the digitization of the mini grids in the country. And as you also heard of the discussion that we've been having in the recent past about the upgrade solutions in Kenya, is that we really need to invest on data, like how much data do we have, which kind of data do we have, and which controls and level of controls that we need to be having as a country, so that we can also get to a more digital way of doing things, as which will also be helpful to the regulator, helpful to the government, and also helpful to the developers. At least you have data to work with. And then another thing is that also looking forward to the future is that the aspect of financing is that we have the country is really pumping resources into that. So it's now the question of effective use of the resources which are availed by the government. And the other thing is also another resource that is also coming out so strong is the support from the World Bank and also the grants now that we are receiving from different donor funding projects. So when all those things are coming into place, so you realize that the aspect of financing also is going to be handled in one way or the other. It may not be in totality because there is also always one challenge leading to another challenge. So you have a solution, then another challenge crops up. So we look forward to a situation whereby all these things are going to be managed. And now the challenges of this year will not be the challenges of the following year. So at the end of the day, we are achieving sustainable development and also growing as a country in terms of utilization of sustainable energies and the resources that we have in place.
Okay, thank you very much. And just to conclude, what would be your message to the young talents or the young people who are willing to contribute to this path as we have described it, or into Kenya energy transition?
My message to such kind of group of people is that the space is still welcoming. Yeah, the space is still welcoming, and it's everything is all about coming up with a solution to something. So it's just a matter of when you notice where the challenge is, you also take us a notch higher and try to reason alongside coming up with a solution to something. If it is about the technical perspective, for example, we've talked about the digitization. So if you have an idea around digitization of such projects, please go ahead and proceed to implement. If you have an idea about the financing, how can we harness or bring the grants to utilize in these areas, go forth and do it. That is my advice.
Thank you,
And
Denis.
everyone is welcome to Kenya. Yeah,
Exactly.
we do this together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you have such an idea or if you want to contribute, please reach out to us at the Seed Center. We will be happy to hear from you and work together.